In this excerpt from Jiddu Krishnamurti's book What Are You Doing With Your Life? You'll discover how your cultural conditioning has affected you, why revolution won't change anything, and the distinction between intellect and intelligence. Introduction. What am I gaining? Obtain profound life wisdom. Most of us have asked, what is the meaning of life? At some point. Possibly you have pondered, aloud or to yourself, how some people maintain their happiness. Perhaps you've reflected on problems you've observed in society and considered potential solutions. These summaries contain responses to these fundamental concerns. What you won't find, however, are simple answers. In fact, it's likely that you'll find some of the content here unsettling and thought-provoking. What if, for instance, enduring happiness does not exist? What if searching for a life purpose is the incorrect approach? What follows will inspire and challenge you, and more. These summaries will teach you how your cultural conditioning has affected you, why revolution will not change anything, and the distinction between intellect and intelligence. Essential idea number 1. Your conditioning prevents you from seeing the truth. Consider the way in which you perceive the world for a moment. Consider, for example, how you perceive love. Since birth, you have been exposed to ideas about love that have shaped your perception of it. A picture of a happy couple on their wedding day or a bouquet of flowers given as a surprise may represent love for you. No matter what, your social, economic, and cultural background has conditioned you to view love in a particular way. However, this implies that your perspective may be extremely limited, and you may be unable to comprehend the complexities of love. The central point of this passage is that your conditioning prevents you from seeing things as they truly are. Your conditioning prevents you from perceiving the complexity of the world. Life is in a constant state of change, but because of how you perceive the world, you tend to view it as stable. Your mind is constrained by your cultural background, beliefs, and experiences. To see how life perpetually changes and evolves, you must be able to adapt your mind and perspective accordingly. If you are not attuned to life's subtle, continuous changes, you will only see a small, static snapshot of the big picture. For instance, if you were to watch a flower bloom and transform, your description of that flower would change from day to day if you were being truthful. Life is similar in that it requires close attention. To view life more accurately, you must rid your mind of the grand theories and systems that attempt to explain it in its entirety. This is the difficult part. For example, you may consider yourself a socialist, capitalist, Christian, or Hindu. If you adhere to an ideology or religion, a variety of situations will be forced to conform to your worldview, even if they contradict your beliefs. Then, how do you align yourself with the world? You must carefully observe how your mind moves. You must observe its operations as though you were observing from the outside. Then you will begin to comprehend how your conditioning restricts your vision. Thus, you will begin to comprehend yourself and your place in the world. This is the initial step in addressing the numerous problems we face, problems that are constantly changing and evolving, just as life itself. Concept number 2. To change the world, one must first change themselves. Imagine a revolution. People, motivated to fight against injustice, unite to challenge a system that is rigged against them. They organize a general strike and halt all operations. They overthrew their government and the ruling elites who were profiting from the status quo. They propose a new constitution with a vast array of new laws designed to make things more equitable, elevate the disadvantaged, and end violent conflict. Many individuals envision this when they hear the phrase transform the world. According to the author, however, if we continue to wait for this, nothing will ever change. To transform the world, one must first transform himself or herself. As we saw in the previous summary, relying on grand ideas and theories can obscure our view of the world. It can also hinder our ability to effect positive change. If we wait for a great revolution or spiritual transformation to improve the world, we miss the real truth, which is that change comes from within, not from without. The world consists of numerous individuals interacting with one another. Instead of beginning with politics, religion, or any other grand system, our problems begin with the individual. It is a mental disorder, not fascism, capitalism, or religion, that has caused us difficulty. Whether we're examining economic inequality, conflict, or mental illness, the self is the root cause. According to the author, the primary issue is the construction of the individual self, which is isolated and set against the rest of the world. As selves, we desire various forms of power, position, and influence, and these desires are the source of all the problems we observe. By pursuing personal gain, we create all the chaos in the world. To move forward, we must therefore escape the I or the ego, according to the author. However, it is not possible to force yourself out of this egotistical way of being by merely concentrating on it. Above all else, you must learn to observe the workings of your mind. Then, by closely observing yourself, you should be able to determine when your ego is causing you to behave in a destructive manner. Key concept number 3. The sooner we realize that happiness is fleeting, the happier we will be. Everyone is seeking happiness. In the end, isn't the pursuit of happiness life's sole purpose? Happiness is the ultimate goal of everything we do, whether we achieve it through love, work, or family. The problem is that it is difficult to find lasting happiness. And when we search for it, it always seems to remain concealed. So, what is the secret to achieving happiness? When we are young, happiness comes easily and naturally. We enjoy life without effort. We find joy in playing games, jogging, swimming, and the plethora of new sensations found in nature. But as we age, it becomes increasingly difficult to experience such spontaneous enjoyment. Therefore, we pursue it through other, more complicated means, such as possessing another person or pursuing prestige and power. The sooner we understand that happiness is temporary, the happier we will be. The problem is that as soon as we obtain what we're seeking, whether it's a spouse, a beautiful home, or a top job at a large company, our joy is replaced by apprehension of losing it. You may recall the pleasure you experienced while falling in love, followed by a terrible fear of that love ending or of becoming overly dependent on it. Fear and resentment contaminate what was once innocent and lovely. As we age, the pursuit of happiness begins to feel like a curse. Part of our search for happiness is also a search for a sense of security, such as a constant embrace. We desire a constant feeling of psychological health. Consequently, we seek it in our relationships with other people, including our families, marriages, and friendships. The reality, however, is that there is no lasting security. Life is ephemeral, and we are essentially all alone. Even our parents, partners, and closest friends cannot provide us with security because they are also alone. What then can be done? According to the author, the only way to avoid this disappointment is to stop seeking lasting happiness. This requires moving beyond the very concept of a self that desires lasting happiness. If you can accept that nothing is permanent and that everything, including happiness, is temporary, then you will be truly happy. Concept 4. Intellect is distinct from intelligence. What is meant by the term intellect? The term evokes images of university professors, scientists attempting to solve complex problems, and students with perfect grades. Intelligence is defined as thought functioning independently of our emotions, a form of analytical or deductive reasoning. Additionally, intelligence can be trained in a particular direction. In fact, modern education does precisely this. Through education, you can hone your intelligence in areas such as mathematics, physics, and economics. However, according to the author, you will not gain a complete understanding of the world if you rely solely on your intellect. To interact with the world, you must use your full intelligence, he argues. The central message is that intellect is distinct from intelligence. Therefore, if intellect is not synonymous with intelligence, what is intelligence? Well, it's the capacity to both feel and reason, with emotion and logic coexisting in harmony. Because it disregards emotion, a purely academic understanding of the world does not engage the intelligence. How do you utilize your intelligence as opposed to just your intellect? The author suggests that you cultivate a calm mind. If you truly wish to comprehend something, whether it be a person, a painting, or a city, you must still your mind. If your mind is preoccupied with rationalization and analysis, you will miss the entirety of something. The truth is subtle and elusive, it is discovered without struggle. It is highly unlikely that you will perceive something in its entirety if you have a loud internal monologue. But exactly how can one escape their thoughts? That must be impossible, right? Again, this results from a profound awareness of your mind. You should recognize that your intelligence is the result of your conditioning and education, and not merely a tool that reflects the truth. This conditioning causes you to reason and analyze in the manner that you do. By understanding this, you will be able to put some distance between your intellect and what you are perceiving. And you may perceive it with clarity for the first time. Key concept number 5. When you are bored, you should embrace your boredom instead of trying to escape it. You are experiencing boredom. You feel unmotivated and uninspired. So what do? You rent a movie, jog around the neighborhood, and call a friend to see if he wants to go out for a drink. And what if your entire life is monotonous? You alter your situation by finding a new job, taking up a cause, or traveling the world. You attempt to escape the boredom. But what if this is the wrong course of action? What if your boredom reveals something fundamental about your identity? If so, you must confront it and gain more knowledge about it. The main idea is that when you are bored, you should embrace it rather than try to escape it. It is preferable to attempt to comprehend boredom rather than to immediately escape it. Everything else you do will simply be an attempt to escape this boredom. It will be a mere diversion. And is self-distraction a sufficient reason to do something, especially something significant like pursuing a political cause or changing careers? Of course not, it's not. In fact, significant harm can be caused in this manner. Therefore, pause for a moment and be bored. It's okay. Then you should ask yourself, why am I bored? The truth is that we have frequently become monotonous. We have worn ourselves out with work, activity, and suffering. Then, once you have understood this, you should contemplate it. Don't escape it. Permit your mind to confront the fact that you feel exhausted, uninterested, and deformed. By doing so, you will be able to live with those feelings. They will no longer be the terrible things that once drove you to frantic action. If you can recognize your boredom for what it is, you will begin the healing process. If you cannot, you will continue to try to distract yourself, running in circles like a hamster on a wheel. Lastly, you must realize that constantly pursuing activities to avoid boredom will only result in more boredom. Once you acquire something, whether it's a person who piques your interest, a prestigious position, or a large sum of money, you will quickly become bored with it. Understand this, and you may develop a greater sense of self-confidence. Key concept number 6. The significance of life is life itself. What is the point of living? That is the $1 million question. Throughout the centuries, many have pondered this question. Diverse philosophers, religious leaders, and gurus have dipped their quills in ink, bent over their manuscripts, and endeavored to produce a satisfactory response. Similar efforts have been made by a large number of ordinary individuals. Perhaps you are currently asking yourself the same question. According to the author, the question itself is the incorrect starting point. The central message is that life is its own purpose. We believe that by following in the footsteps of thinkers and successful people, we will discover our purpose. Our lives are shaped by the experiences of those who came before us and by our cultural traditions. Our minds are filled with various examples of living that serve as models for our own lives. We do all of this because we need a roadmap and a definition of what a life with purpose looks like. But because we spend so much time imitating examples of how life should be, we fail to recognize the true significance of life as it is. Life is something that personally and intimately occurs to us. There is no authority that can assist you in this matter. If you are constantly searching for additional meaning in life, you will miss what is already extraordinary. When you ponder the meaning of life, it's likely that you find your life to be mundane, drab, and repetitive. If you believe, for example, that the purpose of life is to find God or become successful, it's likely that you're trying to escape life rather than embrace it. Rather than viewing life as the pursuit of a distant goal, it is essential to focus on what is occurring right before your eyes. If you notice that something is wrong with your life when you pay close attention, you should attempt to determine why. Only by confronting your confusion, sorrow, or fear will you be able to overcome your desire for purpose and certainty. Life is extraordinarily rich, mysterious, and beautiful in and of itself. And life itself should be sufficient. Final result. The main point of these summaries is: the only way to change the world is to start with oneself. Neither revolution nor grand political theory can solve the crises you observe. Recognize that your conditioning prevents you from perceiving the world accurately. If you are unable to see through your conditioning, you will have false beliefs about fundamental things, such as the role of happiness in your life or psychological security, which will lead to disappointment. Ultimately, life is already extraordinary, purpose is superfluous. Practical guidance. Consider your conditioning as you observe your own thinking. Next time you have a strong opinion about something, whether it be personal or political, pause. Then, consider precisely why you may have arrived at such an opinion. What about you, such as your cultural and economic background, nationality, or sexual orientation, may have contributed to the formation of this opinion? Does this cause you to view that viewpoint differently? Can you view the opposite side? Could you possibly be wrong? There is more to this great book by Jiddu Krishnamurti, which can be obtained by clicking the link in the description box to get a copy of the book. We appreciate your watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video with your loved ones.